Hello, adventurers, and welcome back to part 3 of the Legend of Kelamentura Omnibus recap. For those of you who are just joining us, welcome to the welcome to the Adventuring Clan. My name is David. I am the Dungeon Master and creative mind behind Legend of Kelamentura, the world, the campaign, the plots, everything. Excuse me, as soon as I start recording, my voice decides it doesn't want to work. As I said, this is part 3 of the recap. If you want to, go back and watch part 1, part 2, and then get back to here, because I will be talking about previous events. But if you don't particularly care about that, or this has just come on randomly and you're going, oh, what's Legend of Kelamentura? Thank you for joining me, and yeah, let's get back into it. So, at the end of part 2, we finished up with the party wrapping up Golden Fields, having wiped out all the goblins, the trolls, and figuring out what the hell was going on and preventing the goblin attacks and helping the town better defend itself. The party returned to the capital, Mentura, received payments, and then having decided to journey north to the Kingdom of Iceborne, or the Dominion of Iceborne now, as part of the council. They headed off to do a bit of shopping, to do some prep, so buy some winter clothing and a few magic items since they now got paid, and had some loot to splash some cash, if you will. For magic items, they headed to Winston's Wondrous Wares, and managed to get a couple of really nice magical items to sort of complete their out-adventuring kit. And while there, they happened upon an Genasi monk called Ariadnae. She was actually from a monk colony called Zephyr, which is way up in the equivalent of the Arctic Circle of my world. And kind of give a little bit of critique to the party that, the winter gear that you guys have, it's all right, but it's not going to really do once you get properly cold. And it says, listen, if you guys need a guide or some help to really be comfortable up in the cold, I'm more than willing to help. So, welcome to the party, Ariadnae. So with Ariadnae and Lowe having joined the party, that now brings our current party members to Bjorn, Soraya, Achilles, Titus, Lowe, and Ariadnae. So 6 in total. So the six party members. Then, having reacquired the horse, cart, and everything else, begin the long journey north, which is like over 2 weeks of travel. 2 weeks during which they kind of just bond and talk and get to know each other, and steadily feel the cold, the biting north begin to take hold. They do get a very brief glimpse of Fort Titan and the Fort Titan and the Ice Picks before they head east, which is where Iceborne is, in the northeast corner. And before they get to Iceborne, they enter quite a heavy fog bank, which begins to feel a little bit unnatural, and they are beset by a group of giants to Cloud 4 Hill. Excuse me. A pretty fraught battle, a pretty intense combat ensues. One of the hill giants being slain, and the rest of the giants taking some damage. The party not really taking much damage at all. So the giants, seeing the tides turn against them, realizing this is going to go well, throw down their arms and surrender. And thus continues, which is the second instance of my party not killing the enemies and just making friends with everybody. So on the spot, I had to come up with a bunch of names for the giants and what have you, which is fun. But during the conversation with the giants, they revealed to the party that they were driven out of their keep over a month ago by a massive red dragon, which basically flew past and torched them out. And they used those 6, well, now 5 are the only survivors. The Cloud Giants revealed themselves as Prince Umagorn, Dancing Wisps of Cloud, Prince Gormadan, Heavy Clouds of Rain, and the Hill Giants were Pebble, Rock, and Granite, the fallen one being Jim. So the new friends and allies, the party go off continue on to Iceborne, saying to the giants, listen, we're heading to Iceborne. We'll speak with the ones there, see if they're willing to help you, because, having a bunch of giants in the town, well, yes, they have to feed and house you. That'd be pretty decent to have, giants defending the place. And thus, the plan is hatched. So the party makes through at Iceborne, and with a bit of a detour for Ariadnae, well, I say a bit of a detour, they get to the town, realize there's a toll in the gate, which Bjorn attempts to just ride past the toll and goes, nah, I'm not going to bother paying that, thinking this is some sort of a scam. Ariadnae uses her dope monk shit abilities to scale the walls, and as soon as she scales the town wall, she's immediately arrested by the guards who are watching her the entire time, like, yeah, no, you're not going to, just come here. Nab her. Bjorn eventually has a meet with the captain of the guard, who produces a writ from the noble, from the man in charge, Desmond III, and says, no, this is a legitimate toll it's a legitimate toll. Pays it, and then helps, and also convinces Captain Tiberius to free Ariadne. Listen, she's new, she's a bit giddy, whatever, don't worry, she's alright, I'll keep an eye on her. So they're let go with the, right, yeah, don't you reckon, you lot stay out of trouble. They then head forth into the town square and to the last hearth. Get rooms for a while, because they're going to be here for a bit. And make inquiries as to where they could find this Lord Desmond III, because that's who they know is in charge. So they go, well, we'll go find him, speak to him, maybe he'll know some things. So they go down to the tavern owner, which is one Mike Smith. And Achilles speaks to the tavern owner and asks for any rumors or sightings of this blade this sacred blade that he's on a quest for. And Achilles is pointed up back to the guards as well. I've overheard a couple of stories of the guards. I think they were in here a few nights ago. They were talking about it, so go see what they have to say. So the party splits a little bit, with Achilles and Lowe going up to find the guards, and the rest of the party members going to speak to Lord Thrain. In searching for Lord Thrain, they're pointed to a part of the town that is being rebuilt, because the Kingdom of Iceborne has only been a dominion of the Council for the last 5 or so years at this point. Previously, it was under the rule of the Charleston Kings, the last of whom was a bit of a shit. Bit of a playboy, didn't really... I have a whole feckin' lore thing that has not come up in the story at all. But suffice to say, the last of the Charleston Kings was not a very good king, and he was... the bit of a French Revolution type thing happened, and he was thrown out into the cold. Well, he wasn't there, his wife was, but... I'll come back to that if people are interested. So, yeah. The Kingdom of Iceborne is now the Dominion of Iceborne under the control of the Council, who came in to help rebuild. So they find Lord Desmond Thrain helping in the construction efforts, which to the party is odd, because why would a noble be so involved? Why would they get their hands dirty? Speaks to the party, talks away with them, says, okay, yes, wants to fills them in with a few bits and pieces, a few things that are going on in the town, maybe, okay, well, yeah, okay, you guys are here, that's great. Tells them what he knows is going on in the town. And they mentioned the giants at one point, and Thrain basically says, well, if you can go off and prove yourselves, you guys are new in town, I don't know you from Adam, maybe you can go off and prove yourselves, and then if you're trustworthy, the giants are your friends and your allies, then they'll be trustworthy. And around this moment in time, as Desmond Thrain is looking around the party members, he looks over at Soraya, our high elf cleric. And he kind of recognizes her and goes, oh, wait a minute, I know you. You don't know me, I don't know you. Soraya's like, very confused. I don't know you, my name's Soraya, I've never met you before in my life. Desmond Thrain goes, no, you're not Soraya, you're my childhood friend. You are Enya Sertan. What do you mean? And he goes in and he pulls out this necklace, which is half of an arrowhead, half of a broad arrowhead. Holds it up, and Soraya looks at it, touches it, and has this like full-on memory flashback, which is, oh God, I am Enya Sertan. So yeah, she is the daughter of a very high of the most one of the most prolific noble families ever in Mentura. And the flashback was a childhood memory of her and Desmond. And over time, there's a bunch more memories and flashbacks to where, oh yeah, I was on that ship with my family and the storm blew in, and as far as I know, I'm the last surviving member of my family. Oh god. So that was the backstory, really, because the player came to me with, I don't really, this is kind of, yeah, my character is amnesia. And I was like, yeah, whatever, I'll work with that, and there it is. And also, kind of after that, the revelation of, oh, actually, no, I do know your friend. Desmond kind of goes, okay, well, that's actually my childhood friend. I remember her. These giants, yeah, if they're willing to work, we'll give them food and shelter. That's kind of how it shook down. So the party then kind of go off, find the giants. They then go back out after this conversation with Desmond and go find the giants, speak to them, and say, hey, all's cool. Meanwhile, Lowe and Achilles go off, find the guards, and say, yeah, we're here. We're looking about. We hear you guys might know something about a weird blade. And Achilles describes it. Captain Tiberius then says, oh yeah, well, I haven't heard about it, but there's one of the guys, yeah, that sounds like something Tony's talked about. Tony, always one of the guards over there. Into the barracks. Go in, speak to one of the guards, who his brother, Anthony, so Tony and Anthony. Tony is his town guard. Anthony is he's a legionary, he's a soldier, fully fledged member of the military. And Anthony, who was on patrol, said that his patrol was attacked by a wild man wielding a dagger. Was carving a mountain goat, spotted them, and then attacked them. Yeah, they came across this weird hermit in the mountains. It was seemingly minding his business, but as soon as he saw the legionaries, I'd rush over and just went mad crazy and attack them, and the dagger changed into a great sword. He started hacking them, and he's like, oh, that's a pretty terrifying story, but also, the dagger you're describing, Anthony was pretty clear that's what it looked like. So, that's where that will be found. Sweet. So, Achilles and Lowe depart with a promise to bring back a Yeti pelt. If fine, because there's Yeti activity as well. Yeti pelt for Tony, because Anthony, as the actual soldier, always lords it over his town guard brother. So, the party go off with this new information, go find the giants who were hanging back in the woods, bring them into the town. Excuse me. Oh. Bring the giants back in the town, and as a kind of a welcome party, and kind of Desmond 3 kind of throws this, like, not quite a full-on feast, but it's a little celebration. We'll welcome these people to the town. They've brought giants in here who are going to be our friends, and to show our giants that these are going to be our friends, here's a big welcome party. So there's like a bit of feast, a bit of drink, whatever else. And during the party, a number of other NPCs are introduced to the group. There are two of them in particular are locals. There's a male Goliath who owns another tavern in town, like the tavern for the locals. The Last Hearth is kind of a newly built tavern for merchants and what have you. Merchants and visitors. The King's Head, the other tavern, that's kind of the locals tavern. Pavu runs that with their business partner, Craig Brunstone. And Pavu and Craig were actually leaders of the rebellion against the Charleston Kings. So that's how they kind of that's how they have their standing in society. As the party continues on, they're also introduced to one Jeremiah Doyle, who is introduces himself as the owner of the Roberta Trading Company, which is a global shipping company that some of the party have heard of. It's like, oh yeah, I've heard of Maersk. That sort of an idea. And Doyle is also one of the key benefactors for the rebuilding of Iceborne. He's put a lot of effort and a lot of coin into the town, so he's kind of in good with the Thrains. So, next morning, after the celebration, the party carries on Oh yes, this is where it happens. Sorry, there's I have all these things that I remember about that happen, and I just come across them in my notes. There's a temple in the town, and a lot of the party members, and you have paladins and clerics and priests and stuff. So there's an unintentional religiousness in this party in the campaign. Excuse me. So Bjorn heads off, goes to one of the blacksmiths, and goes off and finds a sword and a shield to bring as tribute to the temple, leaves it as an offering in the temple, and kind of performs a sort of a military religious kappa dance. Think, like a sword drill in the temple as part of his offers and prayers. And while doing so, he is transported spiritually for an audience with his gods, because he is a worshipper of two of the pantheon, Baradun, the god of war, and Arakael, the god of justice. And the two of them said that you're doing good work so far. However, you're not really using your gifts, which means at this point Bjorn is still a paladin wizard. But since you're not really using the wizard side of you, are we going to take our gifts back? No, I'll use them. It's just they're not really useful to me at the moment. Can I change them? That was an in-world explanation for the player coming and going, yeah, this is actually becoming a long campaign. Paladin Wizard was fun for a one-shot, but can I change it to Paladin Sorcerer? So Bjorn is now a Paladin Sorcerer multi-class. So, the party have a little bit more praying, a bit of prep, and they head off towards the lumberyard, because one of the things that Desmond Thrain told them about was that there was a logging camp that had gone dark on them, and they'd sent people to check on it and no one had come back. And they're a bit concerned, because obviously that's not good, so can you go check it out for us? So at the lumberyard, they find a massive brown-furred minotaur by the name of Brogmir, who greets the party warmly and goes, "Oh, you're the ones who brought the giants to town. You're interesting folks. I like you guys." Tells them where to find the logging camp and warns them that there could be yetis. There's yeti activity up in the mountains, although they probably wouldn't have come down this far. But just keep your wits about you. So the party, following the direction of Brogmir, head off into the mountains, foothills, into the thick forests, and after a few days' journey, do come across the logging camp. Excuse me. And when they come across the logging camp, they do indeed see a number of yeti roaming around. They've turned the logging camp into their own camp, and a pretty gruesome sight for some of the ones who were running the camp, and the scouts that were sent to, the rangers that were sent to find out what had happened to the camp. Yeah, they're not alive anymore. They're Yeti food at this point. So Achilles goes off, sneaks around the camp to try and get a better vantage point, and finds the office of the logging camp, breaks in, and when he breaks in, he finds a survivor who kind of questions a little bit of a found someone who's bound and gagged in the office who was the sole survivor. There's a quick whispered conversation. Achilles says, "Okay, you stay here. We're going to take out the Yetis. When everything's all well and done, you can go on back to the Iceborne." Combat ensues. The Yetis are swiftly dispatched. The party does take a bit of damage. I think there are a few abominable Yetis in the mix, so that was a fun one. But before too long, without too much trouble, the party dispatch the Yetis, free the captive, and the rest of them are kind of bunch of the Yetis run off. The survivor is rescued, healed up a bit, sent back to town, and the party do not head back to town. They carry on further into the mountains with Achilles, having been given a map and told, right, the hermit was last seen in this valley. Excuse me. So after the survivors left, Achilles goes to the safe in the office, gets a pay chest, which gives him a little bit of money, which I think he ends up giving back to the survivor to take back to the families. Oh, excuse me. I'm stretching. So the party then heads on further and further in the mountains, and a winter storm blows in, makes travel difficult for a while. But eventually they do come across, they do come up to the valley in question, and Achilles, instead of the party being stealthy, Achilles instantly just calls out a duel challenge to this hermit, which goes well. Achilles, they make their way into the valley and see figures approaching in the distance. The party then kind of decide to sit and wait, marks out a bit of an arena, and Achilles sits the party kind of hang back and wait, and they see this tall humanoid figure approach, flanked by Yetis. He approaches, has a brief conversation with the party, and Achilles challenges him to a duel for the Blade of Storm's End. The hermit produces the blade. The hermit accepts the challenge, steps into the arena, throws back their cloak, and reveals themselves to be a fallen planetar, a fallen angel. Doesn't dissuade Achilles. He draws his blade and goes, "Yeah, you know what? Let's do this." And a quick combat ensues, at which point Achilles is massively outclassed and is very, very nearly killed. But for the planetar coming back and using its healing touch on Achilles, giving him one last chance to surrender. Achilles does not surrender, and before the planetar can act and deal the killing blow, time freezes, snowfall stops, and all sound goes quiet. Achilles pauses, wondering what the hell's going on, looks around to his party mates, who were not frozen in time. The rest of them are aware of all this, but Achilles looks around and sees his mentor, Father Merrin, standing in the snow behind him, who was not there previously. They have a bit of a conversation as to, well, what you're doing here is kind of figures out, well, I see what you're doing here. You sure you really want to go down this path? Because he can kill you. And Achilles goes, "I'm not afraid to die. I don't care. I've challenged him to a duel. I'm going to honor the duel." At which point Father Merrin, and Achilles kind of figures out that Father Merrin is in fact an avatar of his own god, Artur. Father Merrin goes, "All right, well, if you're going to challenge him to duel, let's make it fair then," and bestows Achilles with the Blessing of Artur, which is a massive, temp boost. Makes the fight a bit more even. Duel then resumes with the Super Saiyan Achilles, if you will, going up against the planetar. And this new form is powerful and terrifying to behold. But Achilles and the planetar face off, and they both take damage and dish it out, but Achilles seems to have the edge. And when it comes to the final blow, Achilles does not kill the planetar, but instead renders them unconscious. Which point Artur, in the form of Merrin, reappears, thanks Achilles for not slaying him, as that planetar was a corrupted, and he was a confused and fallen angel of mine. He was twisted and lied to, so I'm glad you didn't kill him. I'll look after him. And then they all disappear. At which point Achilles acquires the Blade of Storm's End, which is what he really wanted to do. Plays with it a little bit while and realizes that this blade can be changed to any type of sword that he wants at a whim, and has a bunch of other nice, really fun stuff to do with it. So the party then decide, head back, abandon the valley and head back, or begin to trek back to town, because they've gone deep into the mountains at this point. So they head off, and a few nights later make camp, and while they're camping out, they hear explosions and combat from the next valley over. So they wake from their rest, go to investigate, and they find a group of legionaries pinned down at the end of a valley. And they kind of look, and with really good perception checks, they actually see that at the end of the valley, there's like a natural cave system, and crouched in the mouth of the cave is a figure with the strange metallic contraption, a rifle, effectively, and he is just using this position to absolutely pelt rounds down at these soldiers, telling them to basically tell them to get off my lawn, leave me in be. The party decide that they're going to try to intervene, so they begin to try to take off and run and charge. Bjorn on the back of Mandarb, uses Mandarb and dashes much, much faster. And he actually manages to get all the way to the base of the mountain and is out of line of sight of the sniper. And Achilles tries to do so on foot, zigzagging between cover. Unfortunately, he doesn't quite make it and is shot down and drops unconscious in the snow. At that point in time, the party are kind of spread out and stretched along this. Bjorn looking back, seeing his unconscious friend bleeding out in the snow. The rest of the party all the way at the back of the mouth of the valley. Bjorn kind of goes, "Nah, you know what? I'm taking the sniper out." He begins to scale the cliff, and after doing so, comes across the sniper's nest and decides to deal with him. Excuse me. And while Bjorn scales the cliff, goes off to deal with the sniper, a bunch of the party members rush off and try to, deal with this, try to help Achilles. They do so. The party is briefly rejoined by Lorilla, the Firbolg Druid, who in a previous session was the player stepped away and was like, "Okay, I don't really have time for another campaign." But he came back and forth a few times. At this moment in time, he came back and joined in, effectively kind of forewarned by his god that your friends are in trouble and need your help. That they appeared in their giant eagle form, swooped down, dropped wild shape, used their Balm of the Summer Court on Achilles, brought him back to his health, and then Lorilla then took off and went to help Bjorn. The rest of the party kind of then took care of Achilles, brought him back into cover, and Lorilla went off to help Bjorn, who had, at this point, encountered the sniper and disarmed them from the rifle, but not before the sniper revealed themselves to be a bit more capable than Bjorn might have otherwise expected. But a very brief fight ensues, with Bjorn being shot a number of times by pistols, and Bjorn giving chase, disarming the fellow another time, telling him to throw down his arms and surrender, who then goes, fine. But before he surrenders, asks them, "Are you from the court? Did Drevis send you?" Bjorn kind of goes, "I don't know who any of that is. No." The fellow goes, "All right, fine." And agrees to surrender. So the sniper's taken captive, all his weapons are seized, and is brought back to the rest of the party. And upon questioning, that individual is revealed to be Baron Machu Lee, who is a famous and prolific weaponsmith who's been the driving force behind pretty much every significant development in firearms technology for the last 50 years in Kelamentura. Basically, this guy is the John Moses Browning of my world. And they went, oh shit, that's who you are. So another NPC is met. And over the campfire that night, he speaks to the party, tells them that he is hiding out here because, he's done a lot for weapons technology in the last several decades. Initially, it was just it was a fun thing initially to do, and then when the war happened, he was given a lot more money and was quite excited at the prospect of having more money and more funds to do more tinkering and more growth and more development. but eventually realized what his weapons, what his creations were being used for, and kind of get a bit of guilt over it, but push it to the back of his mind. But within the last year, he managed to make another significant advantage in firearm technology, going from single shot, breech loading rifles to bolt action rifles to what he now has is effectively a semi-automatic rifle, which he managed to get working. I was like, oh, this is brilliant. He was very pleased with himself, and then realized if the military gets their hands on this, they're gonna, that's just no. The guilt came rushing back, and he fled. So he's hiding out here because he's, a little bit of Percy from Critical Role vibes, if you will. A lot of guilt over what he's done. So after having told the party what he's done, he's like, I just want a quiet life. I don't want to do anything else anymore. If you guys let me go, I'll leave you in peace, and I'll even make some gifts for you guys. I'll even do some things for you because I'm quite a crafter. So kind of hearing this tale of redemption and peace, Lowe uses this opportunity to step in and speaks with Lee about his own god, and because Lowe is a paladin of Elistrae, the Drow goddess of redemption. Excuse me. Lowe speaks with Lee about his village, his mission, what he's out here to do, and how lots of people that the village where Lowe's from, they all want the same thing. They all want peace. They all want redemption. They all want to atone. Lee is very receptive to this and goes, you know what? Where can I find this village? Taking the direction, he heads off. Says to the party, okay, I'll thank you for this. I'll send a gift for Bjorn because Bjorn spoke with him and says, listen, I have an idea for something. Could you do this? Which they do. But before Lee departs, he kind of then goes into a backpack and pulls out a bunch of journals. And these journals belong to Lord Desmond Thrain's father. He tears some pages out of the journals, takes them with him, gives the journals back. And so you can return those to Lord Thrain and tell him I'm sorry. Tell him I'm sorry I stole his father's journals. And makes his way. The party then return to Iceborne. Inform Brogmere that the Yetis are gone. The logging camp is safe. Brogmere says, oh yeah, we were wondering what you guys had got to. The guy was back he came back several days ago. Thanks for that. Really appreciate it. Goes off to speak with Thrain. They return the journalist to Thrain, who was very thankful that they'd given him back. And so you encountered Lee then. Yeah, we found Lee. I know, he was an odd one. That he kind of blew through here, and I didn't know where he went. But getting the sense that the party's protecting something, Thrain doesn't push the matter. The party then return to their tavern for the night, rest up, and discuss other things that Desmond Thrain had told them about. One of them was being that Iceborne, there's a couple of big things in Iceborne that make up the trade. There's logging, which they've helped with, and fishing. And the fishermen have had a bit of a time of it recently, where they've been attacked by sea monsters and other bits and pieces that are interrupting their fishing grounds. So the party, over drinks, decide that the next day they're going to head down to the docks and make inquiries. So they do. They go down, find the harbor master, speak with him. A massive Goliath by the name of Rhodey. He says, "Oh yeah, you guys are here to help. Grounds. Listen, the attacks are happening." Pulls out a map. Here's where the attacks are happening. It's a few days sailing. None of you guys are sailors. So if you're gonna go after these guys, I'd recommend go finding a crew to help you. And well, if I was going to go hunting sea serpents, I'd go look if there's a ship called go seek out the crew of the Audacity. they're the toughest on. They're a pretty tough bunch. They'd probably be the ones that I want to have on my back in a fight like that. Ugh. And with that, the party decided to go and hunt some sea serpents. Go off and Captain Ahab this shit, if you will. And with that, that's going to be the end of part 3 for my recap. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, listening, whatever you guys enjoying this. I hope you guys are enjoying this. And I'll come back with part 4 in a little bit. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.